Well, the nation is talking about USC and LSU, Clemson and Georgia, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and the like. But they are not giving a whole lot of attention to the mighty Zips of Akron.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame.
It's understandable. 2-10 the last 2 years, and arguably, one of the worst football programs in America. They don't even seem to have notes on their website. There's no story on the Akron Beacon Journal website about Akron football. I mean, Akron Beacon Journal is now one of those Gannett content churning places where they probably don't even assign somebody. Like if they play a home game, they might send a photographer and one person to cover it like it's a high school game. And there is no local TV station there anymore that generates news or sports coverage. WAKR is now affiliated with the Ion Network. So they're just, churning old bonanzas and stuff like that, I guess. So there is literally nothing left in Akron to cover this team. And the school doesn't put anything on its website about it. The last thing they said was that they were preparing to start preseason camp. They have a guy in social media who comes in and does like a car wash with all the coaches of all the fall sports, like on Monday. And the head coach, Joe Moorhead, spoke for 2.5 minutes, and that constituted his weekly media, I guess. And in that, he did announce that Ben Finley would be the starting quarterback for Akron. So, the less we know about Akron, the better. As Ryan Day said, this has nothing to do with our opponent. This is all about us. And, that's kind of how we're approaching it. The University of Akron is getting a robust $1.8 million. And I don't even know if they're going to stay in a hotel or not, if they're just going to treat this like it's Akron St. Vincent St. Mary coming down to play Watterson and just get on the bus at 10 a.m. and come down and change you into your shoulder pads out in the parking lot. And, that'll be how it goes.
Oh, this is a great intro for us.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I was looking, Steve. I was looking to see where is there any Joe Moorhead availability? There's nothing on their website about anything. So, they are certainly understaffed because of lack of funding and all of that. But I'm trying to remember if the word Akron was even used yesterday when we talked with Ryan Day or Jim Knowles and Will Howard, because if it was, it could have been more than once or twice. And yeah, it's not about the opponent for Ryan Day this week or the next few weeks. It's about Ohio State. And he honestly said it's about Ohio State pretty much all season long as well, as long as they do what they're supposed to do, play up to their capabilities and be the hardest playing team in the nation, as he said, then they should be okay.
Steve doesn't realize that he just flashed my youth and childhood right before my eyes. The Akron Beacon Journal. So my mom wouldn't get the paper. She had no use for the paper. So I'd have to wait until the end of the week. I'd go to my grandma's house and she'd save all the sports sections for me. And then when I was like 12 years old and I could scrape together enough money, I said, Mom, I'm paying for the paper because I got to get the Akron Beacon Journal so I can look at box scores and memorize them every day and know that there were 37,522 people at the St. Louis Cardinals game last night. I need to know. And as soon as they started to put the parentheses with how many doubles and home runs and triples that the players had, not just that they hit a triple, but it was number 3 on this. Oh, had to look at box scores. So that was number 1. Number 2, when you bring up WAKR, that brings back my 2 internships when I was at Kent State. So Steve, you just laid out my childhood for me right there.
I think Akron, because the Cleveland Plain Dealer is not a Gannett paper. So Akron, I think, does use its entire sports budget on Cavs, Browns, and Guardians. And, there's no reason for them to cover the Zips because, nobody goes and nobody cares. So, it is what it is. And, it's, again, in 15 or 20 years, will they even play these games? I don't know, because by that point, the playoff will probably be 32 teams, and it won't matter if you play 12 Power 4 opponents or not. As long as you go 7-5, 8-4, you'll probably be in the playoffs. So you won't even need to play these games in the future. So, yeah.
Maybe with that 1.8 million, they can maybe get some game notes next year. We'll see.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Well, Tony, what did Ryan Day, Jim Knowles, and Will Howard talk about?
Well, I think the first thing was he said Taker Shabola is going to be starting at right guard. He's earned that right. He's been consistent throughout preseason practice, but also been consistently available, which has been just as important because of the funky virus that has gone through the offensive line. So he'll get the start. They're going to roll some guys in there. I don't know exactly how quickly that'll be and how they'll do that, but it'll be Taker Shabola at right guard. Sonny Styles will be the starting will linebacker, which is what Day told me last week when I asked him, and he said Sonny was the leader in the clubhouse. But then Jim Knowles said that he considers CJ Hicks a starter as well. He considers him a 1. So they'll work out a way that he said all 3 of those guys, Cody Simon, Sonny Styles, CJ Hicks, should all get about the same number of snaps. I don't know if I quite believe that because he talks about CJ Hicks a lot, but he never really puts him on the field. So this will obviously be an opponent where he can put him out there and not really be concerned. But, so that was another one. And then Jeremiah Smith, yes, he's going to be a starter, which we kind of knew since, I don't know, March 4th, something, pretty early on in spring ball that he was going to be with the 1. So I think those were the 3 main jobs that were solidified, announced, and the assumptions were made valid.
This is a 3:30 p.m. CBS game. This is what the Big Ten has thrust on the networks. Did the networks really break this down when they signed with Kevin Warren of what these TV schedules were going to look like? We had Charlotte and Maryland playing an NBC primetime game last year.
Yeah, it's, this is just a week where there's no good matchups, unfortunately, at least that are under Big Ten auspices. They're Penn State's at West Virginia. Fox is getting North Carolina at Minnesota for Thursday night football. So again, I don't know what the selection process was for this week. If this was a week where they had first pick and they took one off the top and said, we're moving it to Thursday night. I don't know if that's what happened, but they took what on paper is probably, the best game in the Big Ten auspices, in the Big Ten home stadiums this weekend and moved it to Thursday night. I don't even know what else there is. I guess I don't know what is the NBC game on. Fresno and Michigan, which Fresno is a representative team and Michigan's a team in a bit of transition. So maybe Fresno can get that game into the second half, like 20-10 or something like that. And, have a possession to try and get it a little closer before Michigan gives the ball to Donovan Edwards and he tramples them. And that's that. But I don't know that to me, this was a week, kind of an anomaly. Even with 18 teams, there just wasn't an inventory. USC's playing a neutral site game with LSU that's under the ESPN auspices with Las Vegas neutral site, promoter, however they contract those games. So that was not on the Big Ten radar. They are getting, CBS is doing UCLA at Hawaii as part of its Mountain West package in prime time. So that'll be interesting, but I don't know. There'll be better weeks ahead. Let's just say that, but no, they're not recouping their investment. They're $30 million a week. They're not getting their money's worth this week for sure.
But again, it's not about good games. It's about eyeballs, and they're getting Ohio State. So they're not going to be too torn up about that. I mean, this would be, in a bad SEC 3:30 window, what would this be like? Arkansas, Texas A&M, or something. So
yeah,
it gets to be about range. That.
Maybe Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Does that sound right? Is that the 3:30 game on CBI or ABC?
That's the primetime game.
That's the primetime game.
ABC goes Clemson, Georgia at noon, Miami, Florida at 3:30, then Notre Dame, Texas A&M.
That's a pretty good triple header.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about that Miami, Florida game? The loser and coach in that game can pretty much turn the sands of the hourglass over, because he ain't going to be long for that job. I bet he doesn't make it to mid-October, the losing coach in that game. So, yeah.
Well, one of them, if they lose, they've got a ACC schedule to lean on that will prop them up the rest of the year, as opposed to the other one that's got a gauntlet.
Yeah. The winner and loser of that game could both be out of work by the end of October. So if everything goes according to Hoyle, Florida, Miami, Florida, and Texas A&M are the three fraudulent programs of the last decade. And, people say, why don't you have Texas A&M or Miami ranked up there? Because they never finish up there. That's why I don't rank them up there, because they don't finish up there. So there you go.
The expectations for Miami this year, their playoff expectations. So that tells me they're not going to fold. They're going to totally live up to those expectations, because these are the Miami Hurricanes. This is the U, baby. And they're going to
I've seen Florida State play. I give Florida State a better chance to rebound and win the ACC than I do for Miami to win it. That's how out I am on Miami. They're going to have to fool me a couple times before I believe in Miami, because their culture is total dog shit. I mean, it's just, they have no culture in that program. There's nobody. It's a mercenary program, has been, will be forever. There's no brotherhood there. It's dog shit.
You think I got a clip for the Miami channel now?
Yeah, play it.
Thank you, Steve.
Print every word of that and send it to Coral Gables, because Ohio State ended them on January the 3rd, 2003, and they haven't been meaningful or viable or relevant since that day. So
that is certainly the way it's worked out. And you got two sub 500 coaches going at it in that game. And I have more excuses for Billy Napier than I do Mario Cristobal, again, because he's got to play a legitimate schedule. If you guys have a 3:30 game, when are you guys able to button up all the work, get home, get it all done, and relax and turn on the late night games?
Well, I can tell you, ordinarily I would stay at home until the end of the first quarter of the noon games and then drive in about 12:30, 12:40. But my nephew is playing freshman ball here in Central Ohio, and they play at 9 a.m. So I'm going to go to that, and then I'll probably leave there at about 11 or 11:15 and just head to the stadium. So I'll get set up, and I'll be able to watch like the first half of a game there in the press box or whatever before I start getting into the pregame stuff and going down the field and taking pictures and whatever. After the game, Tony can sometimes be there maybe a little longer than I am doing his podcast, but this is a game against Akron that, honestly, when the game ends, people are going to, switch to another game, and they're probably not even going to come on the internet to see what we're talking about, because, they watched it. It was a 59-7 bloodletting, and they already know, what happened, and there won't be a huge audience on the internet looking to see what, our analysis of that, because they saw it. So I don't know that I'll stay there. I'll probably be somewhere. The Beer Stube is a bar in Columbus, Ohio on North High Street. I've referenced it before. It's going out of business. They are tearing the bar down, and they have 3 games left where you can go. And then they're going to put an apartment building up there in the next couple of years. It's on North High Street around 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue in that block. And I went there when I was in college, 30-some years ago. So my first stop leaving the stadium will be to go in there and have at least one beer, check in on the late games. About halftime of those games or a little later, probably hop in my car and head home. So that'll be when I'm able to catch up on it.
Yeah, it's a long day. Because I do like to get to campus the first game of the year, just get there and be there and check out the Oval and just walk around a little bit, and then be in my seat in the press box for the 12 p.m. games, because I do want to watch those for as long as I can. But I just plan on being home 7 hours after kickoff. That's about when I get home, or not 7. Yeah, thereabouts. So 7 hours after kickoff. So I'm hoping to get home for like the fourth quarter of the 7:30 games. But also, while we're doing our post-game show, we usually have either a TV in the post game room on so that we can see what's going on, or we'll have our phones, or we're also getting constant updates via the chats about what just happened in this game, what just happened in that game. But yeah, it's a long day. It'll be more than a 12-hour day for me.
Everybody expects. Go ahead, Steve.
You guys stay in the interview room a lot of times after everybody clears out to do your show?
Yeah, that's where
Nobody
we do
cares?
it. Yep.
Well, that's cool.
Yep.
You got a good spot to do it.
Yep. Yeah, we started doing that a couple years ago. I actually, breaking down the fourth wall, I checked with other people like, hey, do you mind if we do this? In terms of like the dispatch people, like, because some people are still working in there a little bit, but because, I don't like to be talking in places where people are working. It's kind of a not a great move, but yeah, so we've been doing that. Yeah, it's rude. So, but it's been working out, and it's a controlled environment. We don't have to go anywhere. We can just do it right there.
Very nice. And we will have post game here at the Voice of College Football right on the Ohio State channel as the clock goes to double zeros. And they certainly have my approval to jump on halfway through the fourth quarter when it's 59-7, I guess, when the bloodletting is about done. So a lot of attention to and expecting big game performances and big numbers out of the Stars. But Caden Curry, he's a guy that could be in play for a big season.
Yeah, he's going to play a lot. I saw somebody else asking about will Larry Johnson be rotating his defensive line. That's certainly the plan. It's always the plan, but it's not up to Larry Johnson as much as it's up to the twos to be ready for it. And apparently Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson were not ready for it last year, especially in the Notre Dame game when Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau played every single snap. But they can't do that this year. They're certainly not going to do it on Saturday. They're going to be subbing in a bunch of guys, probably all 7 deep at defensive end, I would think, when you consider the top 4. And then Mitchell Melton is certainly going to play. And Joshua Mickens has made some strides, redshirt freshman, and Edric Houston as well. So you'll see probably those 7 out there at defensive end and probably that many at defensive tackle. The real key is going to be how many of those guys are actually playing in against Iowa. How many are playing at Oregon, because it's not going to be 7 at tackle or defensive end. It's going to be 4 or 5 max at defensive end, and probably topping out around 4 at defensive tackle as well.